So doing AWS with Python has a lot of advantages going forward. For example, if you know Python, you can develop your career as a software developer, DevOps, cloud engineer, or as well as toward the data side, because you never know which turn might take in your career. But I usually recommend people to focus on one thing rather than going at the two side at the same time. So assumption, of course, before this session is that you already have an Amazon free tier account and you have already installed Python in your machine. If people have their Linux or Mac, you don't have to worry about. Python comes inbuilt installed. Its challenge happens specifically people with Windows machine, because Windows, even though they have made a lot of compatibility changes, still sometimes it is painful to actually uh, get the whole environment working. So a lot of people like to use Anaconda, which is a very easy to use, which is a more data science heavy distribution. But for this particular thing, you can actually use the default vanilla Python from download from the internet, and you need to install a library, which I will be showing you exactly. And yeah, so let's begin. So Amazon, in order to use the Python for Amazon, you need to use a Boto library. It is called Boto. Some might be thinking, what is the meaning of Boto? Why do we use it? So Boto is a name of a dolphin which actually navigates through the Amazon River. And that is what I think AWS wanted to have, that using this Python Boto library, you will be able to go through the ocean of AWS and navigate through the channel. So Boto is a Python library. And right now, pretty much everybody uses Boto3. It is the third version. It was launched in 2014, and there have been a lot of changes since then happened. And if anybody is coming from, I think last week, if you have attended, or not last week, couple of weeks back, when I talked about how to use Ansible with AWS, in that way, in that time, we use Boto, not Boto3, because Ansible still uses the older version of library. So it doesn't mean older version has less feature or what, but the Boto 3 makes it more easy, more programmer friendly as far as the Python library is concerned. So what is Boto? Boto is a AWS SDK, means software development kit for Python developers. Latest version is Boto 3. So how to install? So ensure you have Python installed on a machine, which is a basically base thing. So let me reshare the screen so that you can see my screen as well. I hope you can see my screen. Let me spin up my terminal. So this is the terminal. So how you know you have Python installed, you just type Python and you should see some kind of interpreter. If you have a latest machine anywhere, you should be seeing Python 3.7. You shouldn't be seeing Python 2.7 because 2.7 has been deprecated since January of this year. So Python 2 is no longer supported by basically Python community, but people continue to use it because they have been using it for decades. But I would say if you're starting off right now, better to use Python 3.7 because possibly for next couple of years, this will be the de facto distribution of Python, version of Python. As far as the distribution, you can see right now I'm using Anaconda, but of course you can use any of these distribution available. You can use the default, which comes with Apple, which is your Mac OS. And in Linux, you have a default Python install, and Windows, you can download and install it. So this means my Python is installed. And second thing I want that if you guys are coming from Mac user, you have to install pip. Pip is a Python management system. So to install it, you have to do easy install pip. And if you do that, I already have installed, so it doesn't show me anything. So this is only for Mac users, not for Linux users. So this is what it says, ensure you have Python. Then you do pip install Boto3. And this command must be successful in order to continue forward. And for Mac user, I said you have to install the Python pip before doing anything else, and then you do that. So now we have Boto installed. How do you know if Boto is actually installed in your box? Just do Python and type Boto3. The moment you do import Boto3 means, okay, everything is good and fine and we are good to go. So I hope you guys have installed it already and you can see it there. So And let's go through the slide now. So this is the first step, actually installing the Python and installing and everything. And let's talk about the Boto architecture. So Boto architecture, what it assumes is like certain, this very modularized approach they have made. It's like one is like a Boto core, which pretty much remains the same from different version. You have a session, you have a credential, and then you have a HTTP client. Because remember, AWS interacts, exposes all its feature through REST API. What is a REST API? It is a HTTP interface via which you can actually connect and get all resources. And everything is end-to-end encrypted using HTTPS. And Boto3 gives you a certain kind of libraries. For example, client APIs, resource APIs, configuration APIs, and session APIs. So these are the predominant ways of doing it. So client API, so there are actually, as I said, there are today in this session, we will be talking mostly about two types of API. One is clients and one is resources APIs. So what are the client APIs? Client APIs, they exposes Boto core client to the developer. It means you have a right one-on-one access to the API. And it also provides a low level service access. It means it is more granular in control. If you want more power to your API, you will use client APIs. Typically, it is a one-on-one mapping with the service APIs. For example, whatever REST API is exposed by AWS, everything is pretty much implemented on a client API. So that makes it, of course, it has advantages and disadvantages. Advantages in that way, your code will have more fine-grained control. Disadvantages, especially for beginner, will be that it will be a little bit complex to use it at the beginning, because everything you have to define, you have to basically use multiple calls to get one thing done. And for that purpose, for example, this is a very popular example of getting a S3 bucket up and running. So this is you use S3. I just immediately, this is actually resource API I'm showing to create a test bucket, and you just print it. Second one is the resource API. Resource API is object-oriented APIs for AWS. For example, like whenever I'm saying object-oriented, means it is a very easy to use, right? Because object-oriented doesn't mean you have to know object-oriented programming. It means the APIs are developed in object-oriented way so that you can actually instantiate an object and call different modifier or method to get your job done. So it has multiple options like identifier, attributes, action, references, collections. So resources, pretty much resources, you can actually use that. Instances, what is instance? So if you don't know what is instance is in an Elastic Compute 2, basically EC2 or virtual machine instances are called instance in AWS. So now you have bucket, you can create a bucket name. Actions, for example, you want to create an image. So you just do an instance dot create image. That is what gives you the power of object oriented. You got the instance and now you can use the dot create method to create it. Similarly, once you have a S3 bucket object, if you want to put anything to it, you can use a put method. Simple example, I think the same example here, like for example, if you want to put anything into your bucket, so I create an instantiate a resource as a S3. So it will create an object, which is called S3. And then I can use the object modifier to upload a data, which is basically a put, HTTP put command. So this is, I'm just giving you a very basic overview of Boto itself. And of course, I want to see, I think a lot of people are asking question about how to get to this terminal. So basically, of course, this session assumes that you know a little bit of Python, a little bit of AWS. And of course, some people might find it a little bit out of syllabus, or maybe it's too much for them. They can, of course, maybe join some of our other session. We go on the more of the basic side. So let me talk about Boto, right? Let's go to AWS Console and see how we can leverage these, how we can actually use this Boto in our real life scenario. So for that, I will open my AWS Console. This is my AWS Console looks like. And wait 1 minute. Yeah. This is my console looks like. First thing you need to go is you have to go to the service level, or you can just type here IAM. I think I already shared this video with you guys yesterday, how to create an IAM policy. I will use the same one. And if you guys followed that one, in that I created a user. And for example, for my case, it is, I call it like Python user, and it has a credential. For example, this is the credential I have it. This is my access key and the secret key. And is pretty much I explained on that video that how to create an access key and how to keep the keys secure. This is very, very important. Going forward, consider this access key as your, I would say, credit card information. If someone has access to this key, they can pretty much rip you off right away. They can spin up a bunch of Bitcoin bots and you'll be paying the bill, AWS bill, and while they are making money out of those coin. So I have already, of course, this is hidden, the secret is hidden, so it is very difficult to crack at this moment. And of course, after this session, I will be deleting this key so that even in by mistake, someone cannot use this key. And how to use this key? First thing you have to do is, before you actually, the easy way to configure is actually using something called AWS CLI. So how do you install AWS CLI? You just type AWS CLI and you basically install it. It is very straightforward installation. You can see Windows, Mac OS, Linux, it is pretty straightforward. In my case, I use Mac OS, I install it. It is just like installing any other software. You just do a bunch of clicks and you get the install. And how do you know your everything is working? You just type command, for example, AWS. If you do AWS here, you see some kind of option. It means my AWS CLI is working. Next thing what I need to do is, because I'll be using Boto library to create some resources in my AWS account, I need to give it some kind of access. How do you give access? You give access using AMI key, and you have to key in the key that you just got from here. The key you just got from here, you have to, here you have to put on this one. So that also I showed yesterday. So basically how you do it, you do AWS configure. The moment you do AWS configure, it prompts for question and you basically put the key and the pass and the secret and the default region. Once you have done that, what it does, it creates a credential file. So for example, file like this, it is on your home folder, AWS and credential. So this is the file is there, and over there you have your key and stored. And next thing, so this is pretty much the setup. You have to do this before you actually even use a Python Boto library. And what I'll go ahead, I will just make this key activated because I have already put it here, CS Central. And next thing I need to now use it. So what will I do actually? I'll give you a link to my GitHub repository. So you guys can clone that repository and it has all sample working examples. So let me go to this one, AWS Python, and I will put this into the chat. This particular GitHub repository, what you can do, you can go and fork this repository and basically you can fork it, keep it in your environment, this one. And of course, you can, now next thing you have to do is you have to clone into your box. And then basically, I use Visual Studio Code and you can use any of the editor that you use. So basically, once you download it, the code will be ready for you to use. And if you have configured properly, pretty much everything should work out of the box. And we will see how, as I'm executing the command from here, and how it is actually boiling down into the AWS resources that I'm creating. So let me create this one, open my folder. And this is the code that I have. So once you have cloned the repository, you should see something like that. So I will, maybe I'll go to this one, say, click on say EC2. EC2, what it does, basically, it's just creating a simple, it's just creating a EC2 box. So here are a few things to note here. In this one, I'm creating EC2, and EC2, I'm using a resource API because resource API I'm using, it is a little bit easier to use, right? So then for the instance, I have to give some information. For example, you must be asking, what is this AMI? AMI is an Amazon machine ID. So Amazon machine ID, if you're doing for first time, I usually say, if anybody's starting, I will say first go and try to explore this user console. So if I go to my EC2 and I'm sitting on Canada Central, so see my box is already, one box is running. I just go to the launch instance. The moment I go to launch instance, you will see whatever thing I'm actually inputting right now, those information I have to put on my this. For example, I have this EC2 box and this is my AMI. So I need to copy this AMI and put it over there. And this AMI is very specific to the region. So right now I'm in Canada Central. This is different. If I'm in North Virginia, it will be completely different. So make sure that. Second thing is min count, max count means how many VMs I want. I'm just seeing one VM I want. Instant type. Instant type, what is the type? It is a T2 micro. Why I'm choosing T2 micro? Because we have, possibly everybody's on a free tier. You want to use the free time given by AWS, and I'm using free tier. So T2 micro is the smallest entity or box that Amazon gives you for free. And then this is the key name Ansible. Basically, I have already, because I've already used it. So it is asking me which SSH key pair I want to use. So right now, pretty much if you don't have any key pair, so what you can do is, as a practice, you can just go ahead and create one box by hand. I will say just do it, launch it. And this time it will ask, just say create a key pair and give a name. I'd call it a demo, and you download the key pair, and that key pair will be there for you. So for example, I save it and I launch it. It means right now, actually, I can use this demo word here because I know that key pair I just created, it will be there. And then basically what I'm doing, I'm executing and it's creating the box. So let's explore how my instances looks like right now. So what I see, my instances are like two instances. One is actually starting, which I just spin up. This is from yesterday. And let me see, execute this, this particular Python script. So let me go to the EC2 and let me call this script. The moment I call the script, say it says, welcome to Python AWS demo, and possibly it executed this code. And if I go here and if I refresh, I should see no box is created. Let me see which region I have selected. Oh, I'm not creating this one. So it is another one. I need to call this create VM. So see, create instance. So the moment I call this create instance Python script, it actually creates an instance. And if I refresh it, I can see my new instance is created. This is the instance ID 96. You can see this is my instance ID. It gives you pretty much quickly. It will take some time. Of course, once you go with better, you can make it a more advanced. Like for example, you are waiting for the public API to be, public address to be given, and you basically do a more level of orchestration or automation. So that was a quick about the EC2 instance. Similarly, we have another one I have for basically how to create RDS. So you must be thinking, what is RDS? So RDS is a relational database service by Amazon, which is a managed database, and it's a lot of attention going on. Pretty much the day when it was launched, it was a blockbuster product because people realized that how much headache you have to do if you want to maintain a database and keep it is very difficult. So what Amazon did was they said, okay, let us do all the heavy lifting. We will take care of it. You just run and pay as you go mode. So in a traditional way, if you want to create a database, probably it takes maybe a couple of hours to spin up, and some worst cases, it could take weeks. But in this way, you can actually spin up and kill a database in a matter of minutes or seconds. And you will see just right now how we'll be creating a MySQL instance with a database, everything in one shot. So for example, if I go back, I go to my RDS, and this is my MySQL examples. Of course, you can create for Oracle, PGSQL. This is I'm just creating for MySQL. So what I need to do is I just go create instance, the same thing. And when I execute, see, boom, my database is up. So how do I see my database is there or not? I go to services and I click on RDS. So see, already a new database has been spinned up. So see, my one database is right now being created. So you could see that it took me a matter of like seconds to spin up a database, and that is a very powerful feature. Specifically, a lot of time when I work with different clients and they have to basically some quick POC has to be done. And that time, these scripts are lifesaver for me. I can spin up maybe 20 databases in a matter of a minute. And once our job is done, we just kill the boxes. And that is an extremely powerful feature that you can do it. And basically mostly the kind of a orchestration of POC, of course, is not here because it is our proprietary software. So what it does basically, it immediately creates the database, loads the data, load the machine learning model, and basically generate the eventual output of the engine. For example, if it is a forecasting, if it is a simple, a cloud agnostic, some kind of deployment. So those things completely can be done using Python or could be other tool. It completely depends upon what you want to achieve. So you can see very similar to AWS EC2 instance. Pretty much this time I'm using client API, and this is the RDS instance. I give the database name and giving the password and this, and it is as easy as to delete as well. So for example, if I go to delete instance, I can pretty much go like, maybe I should call it 123, and I can just run in a loop and just delete the database as well. So if I go here, I just type delete database, it actually runs in a loop. It tries to delete 3 databases. And if I refresh it here, you can see it is already deleting the database. So it makes it like it makes it a breeze of maintaining hardware and everything, and having a power of any kind of automation tool, whether it is a Terraform, Ansible, or Python. It makes it extremely powerful, and it makes the automation, because a lot of people think actually logging to the web browser and clicking button here then is automation. It is not automation. Automation is that if it is a completely unattended and you can do without a human intervention. So having said that, I think that's what I think pretty much all what I want to share about this this particular thing. And soon I'll be open the floor for Q&A. Please feel free to have questions either in the Q&A section or in the chat box, and then I'll take the question from there. And yeah. And of course, this session, it is pretty much might be quick and everything. And if anybody has any question, they can come and you feel free to ask any question, like what kind of challenge you are facing. Yeah, I see some people asking question. Yeah, you can do free of charge. There is no fee. Yeah, we will be all using, you saw, right? We are using all free tier. So it is completely free of charge. And of course, when you sign up for AWS, and you have to sign up with a credit card, but nobody is actually charging anything. Again, it completely depends upon you. So it's completely upon requirement. There is no golden rule that you should use that. So people who are doing mostly as a DevOps, they prefer Terraform. Reason is simple, because a vast majority of the operation people, they are not programmers. So they are not developers. So if you're not developer, not come from developer background, even Python is easy. It is pretty much difficult to orchestrate end to end. For example, how to create a fully pipeline, it will be it will be a lot of code in Python. Whereas if you want to do in Terraform, it is pretty small code. So I can show you the Terraform code. Let me open the thing. So pretty much what we did, you can see almost 15, 20 lines of code I have to write. And if I want to do similar thing on Terraform, it is relatively much smaller. So let me see the Terraform. So see, for example, here, let me share my screen again. So you can see pretty much like creating a EC2 instance in Terraform is as simple as that. That's it. So it makes it very easy. And of course, it also makes you, depending upon what is your requirement. If your requirement is absolutely for only getting the infrastructure done, and you are from a DevOps, of course, you will like to use Terraform or Ansible. But if you are from a developer or you are looking for something else, this is how you do that. You can use Python. So of course, there are many ways of going there. For example, let me ask you, you want to go from, say, assume you are sitting on North York and you want to go to downtown Toronto, right? So there are multiple ways of going. You can take a subway, you can even take a GO train, and you can walk, you can bike, you can car. But if someone will ask you, what is the best way of going, there is no real answer. If someone wants to use a public transport and there is a heavy traffic, right? That time car is a terrible idea to go. You should use TTC or GO train, right? But assume right now we are in a pandemic. So what is it is more advisable, use public transport or should you use your own car? So you will use your own car and assume there is a sunny day, everything is fine, TTC is not working, and there is some kind of a road blockage, what is the preferred way? You will use the bike. So it is completely depending upon requirement. And this is what I see a lot of people ask, that what is best, what is best. And this is what differentiate between a newbie and someone who's experienced, who has worked in the industry. Someone worked in the industry, they understand what exactly needs to be done, and they make a decision rather than going in a 20 different line. And I see a lot of people who are right now starting their career, they pretty much try to jump on 10 different boats and they end up nowhere. So I would say first focus on what you really want, and means are a completely different thing. And yeah, I think you can go to the online, you can find the online documentation. And of course, what is the retention period of Amazon? It is up to you, how much you want. Does roll in Amazon? I think I don't understand your question. How does Amazon roll for AWS? Amazon is the parent company of AWS. And let's see any other question. Yeah, someone is asking about, yeah. So of course, as a part of thing, we have some project, and also we do training. We do provide training people on different technologies, which includes DevOps training, and also we do a very popular program, which is a journey to become a tech, or journey to become a DevOps. In that, pretty much we have a pretty exhaustive syllabus which covers IT fundamentals, operating system concepts, Python, AWS, GCP, and also we are adding GCP, Ansible, Terraform. Of course, it depends upon your experience level. If you are coming from an absolutely a beginner background, if you have no tech experience at all, if you have never worked there, so we recommend that Journey to Tech program, which is basically designed for 3 to 6 months based on your ability to learn. And in that one, what we do is we basically focus on 3 phases. First phase is actually learning phase, when we train you to the best of the ability as per industry standard, rather than actually just doing some sample code, which always works, and in the real life it doesn't work. And whatever challenge we give you, whatever project we give you, it doesn't work first attempt. This is what you learn, right? Assume and this is what is happening. Everybody got used to of eating a frozen pizza, and they forgot how to cook. And guess what? When you're going to an industry working there, nobody's hiring you to actually heat up a frozen pizza. Why will you hire a chef if you just have to heat up the frozen pizza, right? So it means they are looking for a cook who can understand all ingredients and make a customized food. And that's what we give you as a problem, which you won't be able to solve. And then we progressively help you to solve the problem. And during that process, you learn it. And once the learning is done, we have an internship phase. During that, we actually do those projects. And eventually in the placement phase, we do help you to get placed into the market. And of course, that is a long discussion. And we usually hold every Wednesday a webinar on that particular itself. You can find the link of the webinar on a meetup, and also we have on LinkedIn. We'll send you the information of the webinar. Feel free to join next week, and you can have as many as questions as you want. It's please reserve almost an hour of your time, because that will be a really quite a information on that. Yeah, so basically dry run flag is pagination is like, if you are, for example, you have a 20 VMs, and in one list, when you pull the information, it gives you maybe 10 or 20 VM information. So if you want to do pagination, you pretty much go to the next level. And this pagination, again, this pagination is not a new or a not AWS concept. Anytime if you're doing a web scraping, simple web scraping you're doing, you always do pagination, right? For example, you go to Amazon.com, you go to the first page, whatever is listed, you click on the next button, you click on the next button. So if you think from a software developer standpoint, to me, it's not a big deal like pagination. It is a commonsensical thing that, okay, first is not there, you create the variable like on the /1, /2, /3. That is how pagination happens. And of course, if someone is, you are coming from completely operation background, pagination may look very I mean, something new, but if you are a developer, this is a very natural thing. And dry run is a flag where it actually doesn't create any infrastructure, rather it gives you a mock run, and which is also very common in a DevOps practice where you do a dry run. Payment from credit card is Amazon has any admin right? I'm not sure where you're going with this question. Payment information. I don't know. I think what you're talking about, contract rights. I, I'm not in a position to answer this question. Probably you should talk to some data governance person, and I'm not that person. But as far as concerned, all your data is secure. Everything is secure with Amazon, and nobody's selling your data to anybody, as far as I know, in Amazon. Can you share the Git link? I think I shared in the chat. I think someone already shared it. So yeah. API throttling, again, depending on your requirement, right? This is not a better way of, if you have to do throttling, you have to do some kind of, for example, you're pumping data to it. If your data is, your service is not able to handle it, you have to write some kind of wait mechanism. So the throttling, API throttling is a very, very subjective. You have to be very specific which service you're talking about. There is no throttling when you're creating infrastructure. And this one we are talking about only creating infrastructure, not pumping data. Chat should go to, okay. Okay, any other question? Okay, if you guys have any more, no more questions, so we can close the session in maybe 2 minutes. Yeah, just 5 more minutes I have. And please feel free to ask any question or anything you have.